What is a use case? Number one, use case. Use case is an interaction of an actor with the system, and the actor derives some value from the system. Think about the business context diagram that we created. Let's say mobile application. When you're building a use case model, this is a use case model, mobile application, and you want to find out, you want to build a mobile application. First, when you are building a use case model, you create a rectangle, right? Mobile application, who is the primary actor, and what are the different functions they create? What are the different functions that they may have from this mobile application, or they may use this mobile application for. For example, now it is represented at this. First, they could view account, for example. They could have something called check capturing functionality. Check capture. There could be something called e-transfer. Could be pay bills, right? So this is a model, use case model. Interaction of an actor with the system. What are the different things that this actor, and let's say this actor is a client with a valid ID. Valid ID. What are the different functions can this user, actor perform? What are the different functions that they can perform with the mobile application? They can view accounts, they could be check capture, they could be e-transfer, they could be payables, and any function that they have to create, they will always have to log in. Right? Use case model. This is a use case model. So when you create a business requirement document, all the system specific requirements get documented into this box. You show the actor, the person who's going to use it, and you draw arrows from here. And there is this oval. In the oval, you write down all the features and functions that your project is providing. Right? So start SRS document, purpose, objective, background, and then each and every system specific requirement gets decomposed. For example, let's say pay bills. Let's say pay bills. Now, let's say we have to write use case for pay bill. Now, the template of a use case would usually contain things like use case name. In this case, it will be pay bills. Pay bills. Verb and a noun. Verb and a noun. Always, right? Use case name. Use case ID, which could be UC001 if it is the first use case you're writing. And this ID generation would be based on how your organization standard is, right? Use case name, use case ID. BRD ID, what requirement ID is pay bills in the requirement document. So you specifically put that, and you can say maybe BRD 07. It could be the 7th ID there, for example, hypothetically, right? BRD ID and use case description. Use case description means one line about what is this description of pay bills. This functionality would allow the user to pay bills using their online or mobile application. Interaction of an actor with a system, and the system derives some value from it, right? Use case description, you wrote down the description, and now starts roles. What are the different roles that are going to use this? You can say one of the roles would be client with valid online ID, right? That could be one of the roles. Now, after roles, it's preconditions. What are those conditions? What are those conditions that must be met? What are the conditions that must be met for this, for pay bill to start? One of the things should be the user should be logged in. If the user is not logged in, how would they even pay the bill using online or mobile application? They can't. So user should be logged in, number one. And always there should be an ID for every step. It should not be a bullet. It should not be paragraph writing. It should be an ID, right? So one. Number two, precondition could be the system should be online. If you're not connected, the system is not connected, you will not be able to perform. System should be online, right? Preconditions. Then there's a small little table here, and it contains two components: basic flow and alternative flow. Basic flow is when everything goes as per the plan. Everything is going as expected. So step one, user logs in. Right? You successfully logged in. What happens when you successfully log in? The mobile application opens and you select the pay bill option. User selects the pay bill option. After selecting the pay bill option, you select pay. After selecting pay, you enter amount. After entering amount, you confirm payment, and then there is a confirmation receipt that is generated in a very layman's way. Now look, what is alternative flow? Alternative flow is user logs in, user enters a wrong login. Wrong login. So basic flow is when I did everything right. But if I entered a wrong username and password, the application just did not kick me out. It said enter it again. So basic flow is when everything goes, conditions when everything goes as per the plan, expectation. Alternative flow is when one of the condition did not go, one of the basic flow step did not go as per the plan. So for every basic flow, there may not be, and there may be an alternative step, and it should always be 1 to 1, right? So one, user logs in, user enters wrong login. Or there could be another 1.1 basic flow. If the user enters the login 3 times, the card will be zapped. Something like that, right? Alternative flow. So alternative flows are alternative ways of getting to the end state. Alternative flow is there so that the function does not stop. The user can still perform it. It is an alternative way of getting to the end condition, right? Now, pay bill. User selects pay bill. There is no alternative condition for that. User have to hover the mouse and click on pay bill. If they click something else, it's their problem, right? But they will. So there is not applicable. They select a pay, but There could be pay doesn't exist. Pay doesn't exist. So another use case, add pay may be invoked. Invoke add pay. It could be another use case. You could invoke another use case, add pay. Here, invoke that function, add pay. They should get that screen, add pay, right? Then the user enters the amount. But if the user has only $100 and they're trying to enter $150, incorrect balance or incorrect amount, right? Incorrect amount and confirmation of payment not applicable. So basic flow, for every corresponding basic flow, there may be an alternative flow. So all the steps in alternative flow must map back to a basic flow. And it's not necessarily that every basic flow step may have an alternative flow. It's not necessary. Then preconditions, basic flow, alternative flow. Then the next is exceptions. Exceptions are, so alternative flows are conditions that present to you other ways of still completing this function of paying bills. Exception is when it completely stops that function. So pay bill, anytime I click cancel, what happens? I will have to log back in again. But with the alternative flow, I don't have to log back in again. But with exception, if exception happens, the use case will be terminated right there. The function, and if you want to do the pay bill function again, if you want to perform that function again, you will have to log in one more time. So exception, one of the first exceptions could be user enters cancel at point of time. Second could be system timeout. The third could be user enters the wrong pin 3 times. Wrong pin. Right? Exceptions. Exceptions. Then there is a section for business rules, which are provided by the business. A business analyst will ask the business, what are the business rules? And finally, it contains post conditions, which will be the user is able to pay bills. Or it could be the user is not able to pay the bills. And the third post condition will be balance is updated. Right? So, Mr. Sir, have you created a use case? Yeah, almost every project I've been working or performing the dual role of a BA and a BSA. Whenever I'm working as a BSA, I would usually understand the system specific requirements by reviewing the business requirement document. Further, I decompose the business specific requirements into use cases, which would be interactions of an actor with the system, and actor derive some value from it. Typically, a use case that I've used to decompose the business requirement contains use case name, use case ID, BRD ID for traceability purposes, use case description, roles, right, which are primary or secondary actors. You can just say primary, preconditions, basic flow, alternative flow, exceptions, business rules, and finally post conditions, right? So this is what it is. That's why. So homework for you is you will also create a use case for let's say you will create a use case for e-transfer. Let's create a use case for e-transfer. So did it make sense, guys? Use case, right? Now this is, so what we have learned up till now is key to an interview, right? We've slowly. So how do you write an SRS? To write an SRS, my first step is to review the business requirement and extract the system specific requirements from there. That's the first step. My second step is now to decompose each and every system specific requirements using use case models and scenarios. Typically, a use case scenario would contain use case name, use case ID, BRD ID for traceability purposes, use case description, roles, precondition, basic flow, alternative flow exceptions, triggers, business rules, and post conditions, right? You can even mention triggers here. Apart from that, a software requirement specification can also contain other aspects such as organizations impacted, business units impacted, processes impacted, and some data requirements, right?